Let's talk now about one of the most practical applications for any calligraphy, including this Gothic Old English font, and that is you want to fill out an invitation, or you're asked to fill. As soon as people find out you're the only person in the office that does calligraphy, you will be the designated certificate filler outer. Now, here's again where you're going to really need some kind of light table or light box, a light pad to do some tracing, because you wouldn't want to, especially if you have a very expensive certificate with gold edges and so on and so forth, you don't want to make your first whack on that certificate directly. You're going to do some tracing. So here I have a piece of graph paper that gives me guidelines that I don't have to draw myself. I'm going to carefully tape this to the certificate, and let's say the name of the person that we're giving an award to is Dan Nelson. Yes, Dan Nelson. Oh, one other side benefit of being the office calligrapher is that you can give yourself all kinds of awards. Just paper your wall with all kinds of certificates. Nobody will question if it's done in nice calligraphy. Everybody just accepts it the way it is. So let's do, oh, come on, let's make sure my pen's working here. Let's do Dan Nelson. There we go. Disaster narrowly averted. I say that. Let's give it one more try. I just put this nib in here just a minute ago and didn't test it. Okay? Good enough. Then I have to fit Dan Nelson in Gothic text down here. Again, the first version doesn't need to be perfect. It's just basically get the spacing right. So I'm going to do it rather quickly if I can. Hardly have to worry about those ornaments. D, A, N. Yes, I think I can spell my own name, although I have been known to misspell almost everything when I'm doing calligraphy. N. I'm trying to remember all those rules we just went through for doing each of these letters. There we go. It's going to be nice to be able to trace that S, the S being the most challenging letter. My pen is not working very well. Welcome to the real world of real calligraphy. Sometimes your pens just don't behave quite the way they're supposed to. I'll make sure that either I change nibs or I get this one working very well before I do the certificate. But the spacing is right, and that allows me then to go the other way around. So the next thing I'm going to do is dry this so I don't get ink on the back of the certificate, and then we'll be ready to do the certificate itself. My ink is dry. Now, if I happen to not be satisfied, this is pretty messy, but if I felt like the spacing was off, of course, I could trace this again onto another piece of paper. Do you understand? Until I get everything just the way I want it. But I think that it's good enough for now, so I'm going to go ahead and turn on the light on my light board, and then I take my certificate and line up the word Dan Nelson right in the middle of that line. And I'm going to tape this down, being careful not to pull up the gold leaf that might be on the certificate. It certainly is not on this one. And then I trace it the other way around. Does that make sense? Again, training or making sure my pen is working up here on this piece of paper. And this is a good time to wear close-up glasses. Now you may find at times, as I in fact am finding now, that the paper that the company provided me for writing the certificate on is not an ideal paper for pen and ink. So there are a couple things you can do about that. One is have a scrap piece of that paper, if there's any way you can find one, or a copy of the certificate that is just for practice, or some solution like that would allow you to practice. Then you can mess around with your ink recipe. The most obvious mess, that is to mess around with the ink, is to try diluting it to different degrees. Add more water, make it thicker, make it thinner. And I say thicker, I'm assuming it comes out of the bottle at full strength. Most of the ink, by the way, I don't think I've mentioned this yet, so I'm glad I thought of it now. Most of the ink that I've been using for this instructional video has been watered down. I don't know what, I can't give you a ratio, just watered down so that it, quote, feels good to me. So you can play with the recipe. You can try a different brand of ink. You could even try a different nib in your pen to make sure you've got a good serendipitous relationship between the paper upon which you are writing and the ink and the nib that you're using. I'm going to extend this last stroke just a little bit. There we go. So there's another award to me. At this rate, I'm going to be the world's greatest award-winning calligrapher. Given to me by me. Knock yourself out.